Subnautica 2 is on the horizon, so I sat down for a day and dug up everything I could find about the game, from the legal issues that plagued its development to all we know about the new world and story. So let's just jump in with probably the most important part of this game right now, the legal stuff. This is important if you're unaware, because this game seemed like for a while it was never going to come out. Here's why. Subnautica 2 has been plagued with legal issues that have caused it to be basically a year behind schedule. Back in 2021, Krafton bought Unknown Worlds, the Subnautica developers, for $500 million. They wrote a clause into that deal where if Subnautica 2 met its revenue target of $70 million, Krafton would pay up to $250 million more to the key employees of Unknown Worlds. Subnautica 2 was going to enter early access in August of 2025, but Krafton alleged that the game was not in a state to release, and at the time, they claimed that the three key founders of Unknown Worlds had been negligent in their roles, leading to the game being underdeveloped. They used that allegation as a justification to fire the three employees, including the CEO of Unknown Worlds, and replaced them with unqualified Krafton employees. But as it turns out, funnily enough, none of what Krafton had alleged was true. You see, Krafton's CEO felt that he was, quote, taken advantage of by Unknown Worlds when he entered that agreement to pay up to $250 million additional dollars if Subnautica 2 hit its revenue goals. While I highly doubt that a reptilian blood-drinking alien CEO was taken advantage of by a studio he was acquiring, the deal was extremely stupid for Krafton. They agreed that for every dollar over $70 million Subnautica 2 made within a certain window of time, Krafton would pay Unknown Worlds $3.12, which is obviously extremely dumb because you would be losing $2 for every dollar you make. Now, this capped out at $250 million, and again, only within a certain time frame. And by all projections, it seemed like Unknown Worlds were going to hit a very, very high amount of a bonus, costing Krafton hundreds of million dollars. So like every brain-dead, money-hungry CEO in the 2020s, he turned to AI to find his way out, specifically ChatGPT, and it gave him a way out, a really, really bad one. It told him to fabricate causes to fire the leadership, undermine support for the game and its developers, and execute basically a hostile takeover of Unknown Worlds leadership. Now, the CEO also alleged that Unknown Worlds were greedy for wanting the $250 million they were promised if they achieved their goals as part of the acquisition, and that he would have been viewed as weak by his peers if he didn't try to stop it. At the same time, Unknown Worlds were unable to get any progress from Krafton as far as the publishing of the game went, with them basically locking Unknown Worlds out from releasing their own game by just not doing their job. This all went to court, and Krafton got its fucking shit pushed in. The judge basically saw right through all the bullshit that Krafton had come up with to undermine fan support and sabotage the game's launch. The judge reinstated Ted Gill as the CEO of Unknown Worlds, extended the bonus payout by the length of time he was ousted for, which was about 260 days, and gave all control of Subnautica 2's development back to Unknown Worlds, and Krafton even lost the rights to publish the game, giving it back to Unknown Worlds, and Krafton was basically disallowed from interfering with the development of this game. Holy shit, what a blunder from Krafton on that one. So, now Subnautica 2 is back and coming soon, entering early access apparently in May this year. So, let's jump in and see what we know about the actual game itself. Subnautica 2 is going to start in early access like the other Subnautica titles, and it's going to be on PC and Xbox initially, but once it's finished, they plan to put it on other systems as well. The reason for this is because the other platforms basically don't allow early access games. It'll be available on Xbox Game Pass on day one, and while we don't know the actual price it's going to be currently, we do know that it's going to be cheaper during early access, so if you want to save some money, buy it early. Then again, after like 3 years, every game goes on deep discount all the time anyway, so buy early or buy really late, just pick one. The Subnautica devs are focusing all their attention on actually making the core game, and this means that they're not going to be doing VR or official mod support on launch. Just as a side note, just because there's no official mod support doesn't mean that they won't allow mods or that they don't support modding. It's just that they're not currently working on the tools to make that easier for the community. They actually voiced quite a lot of excitement about what modders would do with the game before those tools were created. As far as map size goes, it's apparently going to be bigger than Subnautica 1 and Below Zero's maps when it's actually done, but it might actually launch in early access with a smaller map than Subnautica 1's, but the plan is for it to end up bigger. The entire game is going to be handcrafted with no generative AI used, and they actually showed us a lot of the nerdy stuff about how the game is made using Unreal Engine tools and Blender, including how they model the creatures, the world, and a new tool they're using called Mesh Blend, which basically allows the world to look more cohesive than ever by blending the seams of assets into the pixels of the terrains, smoothing out the transition between these 3D objects that are put into the terrain and the terrain itself. They go into more detail in their devlogs on their channel if that kind of thing interests you. Let's get into Subnautica 2's most anticipated feature, probably multiplayer. Subnautica 2 will feature 4-player PvE co-op for the first time in the series, with apparently no tethering, allowing for all 4 players to explore freely. But the world is still being designed with single player as the main focus, and in my several hours researching for this video they said that like 100 times. You do not need to be in multiplayer to survive or enjoy this game. There will be no PvP, by the way. There will also be no split screen because it's the year 2026 and we all can't stand being near each other, but there will be crossplay between PC and Xbox. Multiplayer brings some new features like the biopod, which we assume so far will essentially work like a bedroll in other survival games. When you log into a new world or die, you'll be 3D printed back into existence at the biopod. Speaking of which, let's talk about base building. Subnautica 2 has had a massive overhaul from the previous 2 games, featuring much more free-flowing building mechanics, where you place various tiles to customize the shape, windows, and design of your base, with much more control than Subnautica 1's prefabricated habitats. There's a huge amount more decorations as well, from what I can tell. We also saw some new interesting base building features like the dive elevator that allows you to quickly go up and down and get oxygen, as well as move large amounts of resources up and down. Another interesting block is the Noetic Advisor. From what the devs have teased, it seems to be an AI assistant that will try to keep you on task with what Alterra wants you to be doing throughout the game, perhaps providing directions that will also conveniently move players towards story objectives. Building little outposts in various biomes in Subnautica 1 was one of my favourite parts of the game, so seeing this expanded gets me very excited. Speaking of biomes, for biomes in Subnautica 2, we haven't been explicitly told a huge amount, but the gameplay we've seen can fill in a lot of the blanks. We've seen biomes that closely resemble the original safe shallows, as well as various plateaus and reefs with unique creatures and resources. We've also seen a biome I believe is called the Graveyard, which has like a lava zone look to it, and we've also seen concept art for a thermal spire kind of biome, which is quite interesting. While I'm not actually sure if it's a visitable biome, there is a huge, what I would call a coral tree that works as the game's main landmark like the Aurora did in the original, that would presumably have some large underwater section that looks kind of similar to it. Another biome to consider is of course the Void. In the original, the Void was the edge of the map. It was a steep, infinite blackness filled with nothing but horrible ghost leviathans that were to kill you if you tried to go too far from the main map. They've talked about expanding this biome to be more of what players wished it was in the original, saying they took inspiration from modders and feedback from players. They also showed us a new creature for the Void. So let's cover the new creatures in Subnautica 2. Lurking in the depths of Subnautica 2's map edges, there's a new Leviathan-class lifeform waiting to hunt you down for exploring too far. The Void Leviathan, a monumental skeletal Leviathan that patrols the map edges. This creature will dwarf the player and present quite the unstoppable force. But not all of Subnautica 2's new creatures are so horrifying. We also have a new host of tiny fish to survive off of, just like in the first game. Oh, and I should mention, this game is not set on the original original world from the other games, 4546b, so all the creatures are going to be new, except for I guess the player who is a human. There's also a new seemingly hostile fish called the hammerhead that looks like it'll maybe be sort of a defensive non-carnivorous fish the players will encounter early on to teach them to like respect wildlife, I guess. We've also seen these big crab-like creatures in this dark rocky biome, which look very interesting. We also saw some vaguely sharky eel things in the graveyard biome. These are honestly the kind of fodder they do in every Subnautica game, like, oh no, look out for the vaguely fish-shaped flying teeth monsters we put in every other biome to chase you around and make you shit your pants occasionally. We also see a similar class of creature in the plateaus as well. We also see these weird organic ring creatures, whether they're like a fish or like a plant or some life form like Subnautica 1's floaters, I don't know. We also have this little fuck. Look at him. He's useless. I hate him! But the Void Leviathan isn't the only new Leviathan in Subnautica 2. Now we have the Collector Leviathan, which is basically if you took a squid and made it very, very big and mean. They can grab and eat players and I think throw vehicles, but like in Subnautica 1, you can distract Leviathans with flares. A useful survival tool. Transition. Most of the tools you remember from Subnautica's prior are seemingly making a return, including the scanner, the builder, and flashlight. Adding to the roster we have the Resonator, a device that makes sound to break stuff. I wonder if I could use it on the water slug to obliterate the little fuck. There's also going to be some kind of genetic system where you can alter your DNA to have new traits, which I think is what this pulse control and dash thing are all about. Pulse control allows you to use less oxygen when sitting still, and dash lets you dash. I have to imagine this is done by scanning all of the local wildlife and synthesizing some new and exciting drugs for yourself, perhaps. What traits would I acquire from water slug? Evil, perhaps? However, there will be non-evil friends like robot pets. This is good, I trust this one. Otherwise, survival looks to be about the same from the other games. Now, there's also the Wave Maker, which I'm not sure if it's a survival tool or a vehicle, and the next section is going to be about vehicles, so I'm just putting it here betwixt two worlds to be safe. This is a pair of arm-mounted jets that make you move faster. Wowee. Vehicles. The old vehicles are gone, and they're not coming back. We do know that they want a new big submarine though, but what we have seen so far is the Tadpole. This is a sea moth-like vehicle that is modular and will be able to upgrade it with different chassis to do different tasks. For example, we've seen the wings, which I assume would make it go faster, but I could also see something like a pair of drills, or perhaps a large joust I can use to skewer various fish teeth creatures maybe. Probably not. Subnautica doesn't like it when I terrorize the wildlife. Subnautica, of course, being the game where you paralyze the various fish and stab them. The Tadpole can have players attached to it as well, which is very useful for multiplayer. There will be no character customization at launch, though they do plan to add it later. Additionally, the players will be silent protagonists, which is a great choice, so I don't have to hear any awful Marvel-style dialogue that'll age really, really poorly. So all that remains is the story and the lore. This time we're boarding the Cicada to visit the desert world of Zazura. However, evidently we didn't make it to our destination given all the fish. Alterra is back in the game and they're at it again with their evil corporate fuckery, likely colluding with the water slugs. We learned from the audio drama series that Subnautica released that the galaxy is in absolute chaos. The Kara bacterium from the first game has spread beyond 4546b, probably something to do with Alterra being extremely incompetent, and spreading it across the stars. Martial law has been declared and mutated xenomorphs are causing havoc in various locations. Basically, the plot of the natural selection games are starting to start. Natural selection being the previous mod and game series Unknown Worlds worked on, which the Subnautica games serve as prequels to, with shared factions, corporations, and the Kara bacteria. The player characters in Subnautica 2 likely fell for Alterra's bullshit about finding a new life on Zazura Azura, which just so happened to result in yet another of Altera's ships crash landing on a water world. Isn't that funny? On the new planet, we see new biomes, creatures, and ruins, including something called Axum ruins, but we also see player-made structures as ruins as well, so we'll likely be going around and researching technology like we did in the first game and finding logs of the horrible ways the other survivors have died because they don't have 3D printing and plot armor. But honestly, everything else in Subnautica 2 is a bit of a mystery. There's only one question that remains, the only mystery I want answered. Where were you from 1930? Anyway, subscribe for more Subnautica 2 content. I'll be covering the game more as it comes out, and the first video, when I do, will pop up on screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.